3 moves, 1 message, and the entire league might have just been put on notice. Because what's happening in San Francisco right now doesn't feel normal. It feels dangerous. And if you're not paying attention yet, you might be the last one to realize what's coming. Subscribe right now if you bleed red and gold and don't want to miss what could be a historic season. There's a certain energy building around this team right now, and it's not hype for the sake of hype. It's not noise. It's not empty off-season optimism. This feels calculated. It feels intentional. And most importantly, it feels like a roster that's been constructed with one goal in mind, not just competing, but finishing the job. And when a respected voice like Brian Baldinger comes out and says, if you're not excited about this team right now, check your pulse, that hits differently. Because this isn't just another talking head. This is someone who studies trenches, who understands roster construction, who doesn't throw around Super Bowl predictions lightly. So when he says this team could be headed there, you don't ignore it. Think back for a second. Earlier in the season, when things weren't perfect, when injuries were stacking, when people were doubting whether this team could even make noise, Baldinger was already calling it. He said, watch out. This team can go on a run. And they did. Not perfectly. Not cleanly. But they fought through adversity and proved something important. This core doesn't break easily. Now fast forward to today. And the difference is obvious. Because now you're not talking about a team trying to survive. You're talking about a team being reloaded. The additions of Mike Evans and Christian Kirk completely changed the geometry of this offense. This is no longer just a system that relies on timing and execution. This is now a system that can stretch you in every direction. Horizontally, vertically, deep shots, red zone dominance, route precision, it's all there. Defenses are going to have to pick their poison. And here's the real question. What happens when you try to double one guy, and 3 others are still capable of beating you? That's where this offense starts to become a nightmare. But here's where things get even more interesting, because while the offense is grabbing headlines, the front office is quietly doing something just as important behind the scenes. They are doing their homework. The visit with Max Iheanachor isn't just another pre-draft formality. It's a signal. A very clear signal. Because when you look at the pattern, it's impossible to ignore. 3 offensive tackles, all highly graded, all with legitimate first or second round value, all being evaluated closely. That's not random. That's strategy. And if you've been watching closely, you already know the names, Caden Proctor, Caleb Lomu, and Iheanachor. Each one brings something different. But the underlying theme is the same, long-term upside. These aren't plug-and-play, day-one dominant starters. These are developmental tackles with elite traits. The kind of players you invest in now, so they anchor your line for the next 5 to 10 years. And that raises a serious question early on. Are you willing to spend a first-round pick on a player who might not start immediately, but could become elite down the line? Because that's the real debate. Some fans want instant impact. They want a starter on day one. Someone who fills a visible gap immediately. Others understand the long game. They see the value in building a foundation that keeps this team competitive year after year. And the data actually supports this approach. Over the last several years, the 49ers have consistently drafted players they brought in for top 30 visits. This isn't guesswork. This is a system. When they show interest, it usually means something. So if you're seeing these names repeatedly, it's not smoke. It's direction. Now let's talk about something that could completely reshape how this draft plays out. Trade movement. Because according to Jeremy Fowler, multiple teams are already working the phones. And not just minor conversations. We are talking about serious flexibility at the top of the draft. Teams like Arizona Cardinals and Tennessee Titans are reportedly open to moving back. Meanwhile, the Dallas Cowboys are sitting in a fascinating position, watching everything unfold, with the ability to move either direction. And this is where things get really interesting for San Francisco. Because if a certain player starts to fall, if someone unexpected slides into that 18 to 20 range, you have to ask yourself, do you stay patient? Or do you go get your guy? Now let's be realistic. Moving up in the draft isn't cheap. It costs serious capital, picks, future assets, flexibility. You don't make that move unless you are absolutely convinced. And that leads to the question of the day. If there's one player falling into the top 20, who would you trade up for, and is it worth giving up future picks? Drop your answer in the comments right now, because this is where philosophies clash. Some believe you never overpay, that you trust your board and let the draft come to you. Others believe that if you identify a difference maker, you go get him.
No hesitation.
And the 49ers historically, they've done both, depending on the situation. But here's the key detail. This roster isn't desperate. That changes everything. When you're not drafting out of desperation, you're drafting from a position of strength. And that allows you to think long-term, to take calculated risks, to prioritize upside over urgency. And that brings us to one of the most debated topics right now, positional priorities. Should this team go tackle? Should they go corner? Should they look at edge, receiver, or even safety? Because every option has an argument. There are fans who believe corner at pick 27 would be a mistake, that there are simply too many other needs, or at least more impactful positions available. And honestly, that argument holds weight. Unless a truly elite corner somehow falls, which is unlikely, you're probably not getting a guaranteed day-one difference maker at that spot. Meanwhile, positions like offensive line or defensive front could provide both immediate depth and long-term stability. But there's another layer to this conversation that can't be ignored. Health. Because no matter how talented your roster is, none of it matters if your players can't stay on the field. And this has been a real concern. Year after year, injuries have tested this team. Key players missing time. Momentum disrupted. Seasons shaped by availability instead of ability. So when fans raise concerns about the training staff, about recovery systems, about roster durability, those concerns are valid. But here's the reality. You can't build a roster assuming injuries will happen in a specific way. You have to evaluate talent under the assumption of availability. Because if you don't, you're not building a team. You're guessing outcomes. Still, the importance of adding young, durable, high-upside players in this draft cannot be overstated. This isn't just about talent. It's about sustainability. Now flip to the defensive side for a moment, because something quietly powerful is forming there too. With Nick Bosa returning healthy, and the addition of Osa Odigizua, the pressure dynamics completely change. Last season, players like Mike Morris were absorbing heavy attention. Double teams. Constant pressure. Limited support. That's not happening anymore. Because now, offenses have a problem. Who do you double? You double Bosa. Someone else eats. You double inside. Edge pressure gets home. You try to spread protection. You're leaving someone one-on-one, and that's exactly what this defense wants. And that's where this unit starts to become dangerous again. Not just good. Not just solid. But disruptive. And when you combine that with an offense that can attack at every level, now you're not just talking about a playoff team. You're talking about a contender that can overwhelm opponents on both sides of the ball. But let's bring it back to the draft one more time, because this is where everything ties together. This isn't about filling one hole. This is about maximizing a window, a championship window. And every decision, whether it's drafting a developmental tackle, passing on a corner, trading up, or staying put, all of it feeds into that bigger picture. So as the draft approaches, as rumors build, as boards shift and players rise and fall, just remember this, the 49ers aren't guessing. They are positioning. And if they get this right, if they hit on even one or two key pieces, then everything Brian Baldinger said won't just sound exciting. It'll sound inevitable.